The chase that night wasn't an ordinary one. It was a terrifying sprint for survival, fueled by fear, sweat, and a hammering heartbeat. Gabriel and his friend had gone back to the port for another operation. Rice, fish, sugar, anything they could find just to get by. But they had no idea what was hidden beneath the warehouse, deep inside the hollows and tunnels of the ship. They were busy working when something felt very wrong. After a long day in the cold room, they climbed out and saw one of the bosses standing by a ladder. He was just smoking, staring down into the belly of the ship. Gabriel whispered to his friend, "What's he looking at?" His friend shrugged. "Maybe watching for small boats." "Why?" Gabriel asked. But before his friend could even guess, the boss kept glancing over at them, his eyes filled with suspicion, like he was guarding a dark secret. Soon enough, a small boat slid silently alongside the ship. Gabriel and his friend ducked into the shadows and watched. They saw the boss handing something down to the men in the boat. "What is he giving them?" Gabriel wondered aloud. "I don't know, Sam," his friend replied. The boss carried more goods from the captain's deck, and just like that, the small boat vanished into the night. 3 days passed. All the workers were suddenly gathered on deck. A higher authority was making an announcement. The boss started calling out names. If your name was called, you were allowed to stay on the ship. Gabriel waited. His name was never called. His friend's name wasn't called either. 7 other workers were also left out, just ignored. They were told wait for the next ship. "We have no idea when it will arrive." A cold feeling washed over Gabriel. Something was terribly wrong. Why them? Why those specific names? But there were no answers. 2 days later, on a Friday morning, they went to collect their salary. They waited for 5 long hours, only to be told come back next week. That was the final straw. They had no money, no food. They couldn't even afford the fare to cross the river back to their village. Desperate, Gabriel came up with a risky plan. "We'll hide inside the storehouse after most of the workers have gone," he said. The store held huge bags of rice and baking flour. Moving in complete silence, they carefully cut open a bag of rice, poured some into their own sack, and slipped away in the pre-dawn darkness. They made it. Barely. They returned to their village with just enough to survive, but they couldn't stay away from the port. It was their only lifeline. One evening, word got around. A new ship was due to dock that night. This time, they didn't go back to the village. They stayed, determined to be the first in line for work. But something was off. The area was crawling with security officers. Even the other port workers were whispering amongst themselves. "People are paying bribes to get on that ship," they said. "The salary is huge. The bonus is even bigger. The destination, it's far away." But no one would say which country. Gabriel couldn't help but wonder, why is everyone so desperate to get on this one ship? The next morning, they were still stuck, with no money to cross the river. They found an old fisherman with a worn wooden boat. "Baba, please, can you help us cross?" Gabriel pleaded. The fisherman pointed to the choppy water. "Wait for the waves to calm down. Then I will take you as Tay whited." Gabriel felt an undeniable pull toward that mysterious ship. A strange force, like destiny itself, was calling his name. The rumors kept flying. High salary, big bonus, a long journey to an unknown destination. And the ship, it was bigger than anything Gabriel had ever seen. Even bigger than the first giant vessel that had completely changed his perspective on life. They tried everything they could to get hired, but they were turned away at every corner. They never succeeded. Not until the very last day, when the ship was almost ready to leave. That's when the reality hit them. They weren't on the list. They went home that night defeated, confused, and filled with a deep sense of dread about what the future held. A night of secrets, a ship full of mysteries, a journey that almost began, but didn't. The truth behind that ship, and what destiny had planned for Gabriel, was about to be revealed. Thanks for watching, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what happens next.